Let me tell you something that took me 94 years to figure out. Something nobody tells you when you're young. Because when you're young, you're too busy being stupid and optimistic to listen anyway. I've buried 3 best friends, outlived 2 presidents I personally disliked. I've seen families fall apart over a dining table and a china set that nobody even wanted. I've watched people smile at funerals while quietly calculating what they're about to inherit. And after all of that, after 94 years of watching human beings do what human beings do, I have one piece of advice for you. Trust no one, not your neighbors, not your coworkers, not your friends, and especially not your family. Now, before you call the elder abuse hotline on me, hear me out, because I'm not saying people are evil. I'm not saying the world is a dark, terrible place full of people plotting against you. I'm saying something much more important than that. I'm saying that blind trust, the kind where you just hand someone your heart and your bank account and your secrets and assume everything is going to be fine, that kind of trust will destroy you. It nearly destroyed me. Twice. So let's start at the beginning. Why do we trust people in the first place? Here's the honest answer. Because it's easier. Trust is lazy, and I mean that lovingly. When you trust someone completely, you don't have to think. You don't have to pay attention. You don't have to ask questions or verify or double check. You just assume. And assumption is comfortable. Assumption is warm. Assumption feels like home. The problem is, assumption has no idea what's actually going on. I had a neighbor once, wonderful woman, brought me soup when I had the flu, always remembered my birthday, and I trusted her completely. I gave her a spare key to my house. I told her about my health problems. I shared things I hadn't told my own children. And one day, totally by accident, I found out she had been telling everyone in the neighborhood every single thing I'd ever said to her, every medical detail, every family argument I'd mentioned. She wasn't being malicious. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She was just a talker. She loved people. She loved sharing. She thought she was connecting with others by sharing pieces of my life. She didn't even realize she was doing something wrong. And that right there is the real lesson. Most betrayals don't come from villains. They come from people who love you but love something else. Gossip, attention, money, comfort, just a little bit more. Now let's talk about family, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. We are trained from birth to believe that family is sacred. Family is loyalty. Family is the one group of people in the world who will never ever let you down. And I want to look at that idea very carefully, because it's one of the most beautiful lies ever told. I have 3 children. I love them more than I love breathing. But let me tell you something about my children. They are also human beings, flawed, complicated, self-interested human beings who have their own bills and their own fears and their own version of every family story that ever happened. My son, God bless him, convinced me once to invest a significant amount of money in his business. He was confident. He was charming. He had a PowerPoint presentation. You know things are serious when there's a PowerPoint. He genuinely believed in what he was doing. He wasn't trying to con me, but he also didn't tell me about the debt he already had. He didn't mention the other investor who had just pulled out. He told me the good parts because he needed me to say yes, and he told himself that the rest wasn't important. I lost that money, every cent of it, and the worst part, We didn't speak properly for almost 2 years after that. Not because I was angry about the money. Money comes and goes, and at my age you stop caring about it as much as people think. I was hurt because he hadn't trusted me enough to tell me the whole truth. Funny, isn't it? I was upset about his lack of trust, not mine. Here's what nobody tells you about trust. It's not a feeling, it's a decision. And like all decisions, it should be based on evidence, not hope. When you were little and you touched a hot stove, you didn't think maybe this stove is having a bad day. You thought stoves are hot. I will not touch them again. You updated your understanding based on reality. But with people, especially people we love, we refuse to do this. Someone lies to us and we say they were scared. Someone takes advantage of us and we say they were going through a hard time. Someone breaks our confidence and we say they didn't mean it. And maybe all of that is true, but it's also information. It's data about who that person is and what they're capable of when things get hard for them. Trust should be calibrated, like a thermostat. You adjust it based on what the temperature actually is, not what you wish it would be. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking this old man is just bitter. He's been hurt, and now he wants everyone else to be as suspicious and paranoid as he is. Fair enough, that's a reasonable thing to think. But let me offer you a different frame. I'm not telling you to be paranoid. Paranoia is exhausting, and at 94 I don't have the energy for it. What I'm telling you is to be awake. There's a big difference. Paranoia says, everyone is out to get me. Being awake says, I'm paying attention and I'll respond to what I actually see, not what I assume. One of those things leads to a lonely, anxious life where you trust no one and accomplish nothing. The other one leads to a life where you build real, honest, durable relationships because you chose them carefully, because you tested them slowly, because you gave trust like a reward, not a welcome gift. Let me tell you about my wife. 61 years we were married. 61 years. People always asked us, what's the secret? And she would squeeze my hand and say, communication. And everyone would nod like that was profound. But the real secret, the one she told me privately, late at night when it was just the two of us, was this: I never assumed I knew you. I kept paying attention. She meant it. She never stopped watching me. Not in a suspicious way, in a loving way. She noticed when I was stressed before I said anything. She noticed when something was bothering me, even when I said I was fine. She never took me for granted. She never thought she had me figured out. And because she kept paying attention, she kept knowing me, the real me, not the version I performed for the world. That's what real trust looks like. It's not blind. It sees everything, and it chooses to stay anyway. Let me give you some practical wisdom here. Because what's the point of being 94 if you can't hand out some actual useful information? First, never sign anything you haven't read. I don't care if it's your son, your daughter, your priest, or your best friend since kindergarten. Read it. Every word. Anyone who gets offended by you reading something before you sign it is someone who needed you not to read it. Second, watch what people do when they think you're not looking. Anyone can be charming when they're trying to impress you. The real character shows up when there's nothing to gain. Is your nephew kind to the waitress? Does your friend actually follow through when they say they'll help someone? Does your family member treat service workers like human beings? These are the things that tell you who someone really is. Third, money changes people. Not always, not everyone, but often enough that you should never assume it won't. I've watched siblings destroy 50-year relationships over inheritances. I've seen the kindest, most generous people become cold and calculating the moment a will was opened. It doesn't make them bad people, it makes them human. Just be ready for it. Fourth, be careful with your secrets, not because everyone will betray them, but because you genuinely don't know who will. Keep the truly personal things close. Share them only with people who have proven over time, not promised, proven that they can hold something precious without dropping it. And fifth, this is the big one. Distrust is not the same as disrespect. You can love someone deeply and still not give them access to every corner of your life. You can adore your children and still keep your finances private. You can cherish your friendships and still not tell your friends everything. Boundaries are not walls. They're the architecture of a healthy relationship. I want to tell you about a mistake I see young people make all the time. And by young, I mean anyone under 70. They confuse loyalty with agreement. They think that if they trust someone, they have to agree with them. They have to support their decisions, back them up in arguments, take their side in conflicts, and they think that questioning someone, asking hard questions, pushing back, asking for proof is a sign of distrust. It's not. It's the opposite. The people I trust most in my life are the people who argue with me, who tell me when I'm wrong, who don't nod along just to keep the peace. My doctor, a sharp woman, much younger than me, occasionally infuriating, tells me things I don't want to hear every single appointment. I trust her completely, because she never tells me what I want to hear. She tells me what's true. Real trust can survive a disagreement. Real trust can survive an argument. Real trust can survive being told no. What it can't survive is dishonesty. What it can't survive is being taken for granted. What it can't survive is someone treating you like a resource instead of a person. Here's the thing about getting old that people don't tell you. You become invisible to a lot of people. Not to everyone, but to enough. When you're old, some people stop seeing you as a full human being with opinions and intelligence and something worth saying. They start seeing you as something to be managed, something to be smiled at and patted on the head and steered gently toward decisions that are convenient for everyone else. And one of the greatest gifts I ever gave myself was refusing to accept that. I still ask questions. I still read the documents. I still call the bank directly when something doesn't look right. I still trust my own instincts, even when someone younger and more confident is telling me I'm wrong. Because here's the thing about 94 years of life. I have seen more things go wrong than most people can imagine. I have a library in my head of bad decisions and their consequences. And that library is mine. Nobody can take it from me. And nobody gets to override it just because they're louder or more confident or in more of a hurry. Being old doesn't mean being naive. If anything, it should mean the opposite. So let me wrap this up, because I know you have things to do, and I need to take my afternoon medication. Trust no one blindly. Not your family, not your friends, not the charming stranger, and not the familiar face. Not because people are terrible. Most people are genuinely trying their best. But because blind trust isn't love. It's laziness wearing love's clothing. Real trust is earned. Slowly, through time and consistency and truth and little moments where someone could have taken advantage of you and didn't. Real trust is also maintained actively. You don't get to trust someone once and then never pay attention again. You keep watching, you keep listening, you keep updating, and when someone shows you who they are, when they drop the mask, even for a second, believe them, not with cynicism, not with anger, but with clarity, because the goal isn't to live a life where no one ever disappoints you. That life doesn't exist. The goal is to build a life where your disappointments don't destroy you, where your trust, when it's broken, wasn't the only thing holding you up. That's what 94 years teaches you. Stay awake, stay curious, hold people a little loosely, and for the love of everything, read the documents before you sign them. If this hits something in you, share it with someone you love, or someone you're not quite sure about yet. Either way, leave a comment. I want to know what's the most important lesson someone's betrayal taught you. Let's talk about it.